Hello everyone, welcome back to the Analyst by Vajiram and Ravi, dated 20th May 2026. Today again we will be discussing some important topics that has appeared in today's The Hindu and the Indian Express newspapers which are relevant for your examination. In the initial two topics, we have included two mains practice questions which will be useful for your upcoming mains examination. In the analysis section, in our first topic, we will look into various aspects of the local self-government in India, the challenges being faced by them and some possible solutions. After that, in our second topic, we will look into various aspects of the EV adoption in India. Thereafter, keeping in mind the upcoming prelims examination 2026, we will discuss 5 important prelims pointers that will be highly useful for your preparation. So stay tuned. So let's start our discussion with the first topic, that is why India needs to empower local bodies. And the context of this topic is that in today's Indian Express newspaper, there is an article that is drawing comparison between India and China with regard to the autonomy, particularly the financial autonomy that is provided to the local bodies. And this particular topic is related to your GS paper 2, panchayats, as well as the local self-government. And this is one of the topic from where UPSC has asked multiple questions both in the prelims and the mains examination. For example, here you can see a lot of questions which has been asked in the mains examination. And local self-government has been one of the prime feature of Indian society from ancient times. For example, village autonomy was one of the important feature of the Chola dynasty. Along with that, after independence also, the decentralization, the Gandhiji's philosophy was again a very important part, and that is the reason it was included in the directive principles of state policy, which is provided under Part 4 of the Constitution, and under Article 40, it provides for the organization of the village panchayats. So that is the reason the panchayats, the local bodies, they have been one of the important part of our society. But in present, they are witnessing various issues which needs attention, which needs solution, so that they can be much more effective as well as they can properly participate in the citizen-centric governance. So if you see what is the definition of the local self-government or grassroots democracy, simply it is the tendency towards designing the political processes that shift as much as decision-making authority as practical to the organization's local, geographic or the social level of the organization. That here we are following a path that whatever the smaller units are there, for example, you have the Gram Sabha or village assembly, village panchayats or the Nagar Panchayat, municipal councils. So whatever the authority that we can devolve to them, we should try so that the effective governance can be there, the feedback can be taken from the citizens, from the local population, as well as the delivery of the public goods, delivery of the services can also become much more effective. Earlier, it was not as such explicitly part of the constitution, but the 73rd and 74th constitutional amendment that was done, then these amendments were done in 1992 and effective from 1993. It said that the panchayats constitutional status was provided because previously the panchayats matter were considered as a state subject provided under the 7th schedule of the constitution. That union list, state list and concurrent list panchayats were in the state list. And this particular amendment actually institutionalized the 3-tier system at village, block as well as the district level. Along with that, an amendment stipulated that all the panchayat members be elected for 5-year term in the election, which will be supervised by the State Election Commission, which is again provided by the Constitution itself. So State Election Commission is the constitutional body, as well as this particular State Election Commission is provided under Article 243K of the Constitution. And State Election Commission looks up to the elections of the panchayats, urban local bodies, whereas the Central Election Commission or the Election Commission, which is provided under Article 324 of the Constitution, looks up to the elections of the Member of Parliament in both Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, then Member of Legislative Assemblies, Member of Legislative Councils, the elections of the Honorable President and Vice President. All those elections are looked up by the Election Commission, whereas State Election Commission looks up to the elections of only the panchayats as well as the urban local bodies. Along with that, this amendment provided for the reservation, compulsory elections every 5 years has to be done, and also to levy, collect and appropriate taxes, duties, tolls and fees, as well as preparation of plan for the economic development and to ensure the social justice is being provided. Also at the state level, we have divided the panchayats as well as the municipalities from at the higher level we have the Jila Parishad, then at the block level we have the Taluk Panchayat, and then at the lower level we have the village Panchayat, and then we have the Gram Sabha, which is the village assembly, and in the municipality we have the municipal corporation, municipal council, Nagar Panchayats, as well as board meetings are done for the municipal areas where the ward members generally participate. Then if you see that committees which are related to the Panchayati Raj, they are very important because consistently there has been questions from these committees on the Panchayati Raj, and the questions you can see in the state PSCs, there has been a lot of questions which are asked every year, and in UPSC also there are questions which has been asked from these committees. So Balwant Rai Mehta committee, that was the first committee that was set up in 1957, and they recommended 3-tier Panchayati Raj system: Gram Panchayat at village level, Panchayat Samiti at block level, and Jila Parishad at district level. Then Ashok Mehta committee that came in 1977, that went for 2-tier Panchayati Raj system instead of 3-tier which was provided by the Balwant Rai Mehta. Here Mandal Panchayats at village level and Jila Panchayat at district level. Official representation of political parties at all levels of Panchayat elections was recommended by the Ashok Mehta committee. Seats for the scheduled caste and scheduled tribes should be reserved. That was again said by the Ashok Mehta committee. And constitutional recognition to be provided to the Panchayati Raj institution, that was also one of the main focus areas of the Ashok Mehta committee. Then GVK Rao committee, that was established in 1985, that recommended for regular elections to the Panchayati Raj institutions. Then LM Singhvi committee that came in 1986, that recommended for regular free and fair elections to the Panchayati Raj institutions, establishment of Nyay Panchayats, and more financial resources to the village panchayats that has to be provided. This was recommended by the different committees that were established for the Panchayati Raj. Now if you see the major issues which are plaguing the effective functioning of the Panchayati Raj institutions, as already recommended in the article also, that first of all the financial constraints, that they have very limited sources of their own revenue. For example, if you see average revenue per panchayat, this is the data from Ministry of Panchayati Raj, which says that the revenue receipts, own tax revenue of the panchayat is very less, and they are mainly dependent on the grants in aid that is provided from the central government as well as what is provided from the state government. So they are mainly dependent on the grants that are being provided to them, rather than they do not have any proper sources of their own revenue. For example, GST, that is one of the important source for the center and the state government. Then income tax, one of the important sources for the government to earn the revenue, and then subsequently they can plan their expenditure. But in the case of panchayats, they have very limited subjects on which they can levy the taxes, they can collect the taxes to look up to their overall expenditure. So they are mainly dependent on the mercy of the grants that will be provided from the central and the state government. And if you see the overall own tax resources as percentage of GDP, this is of the center, this is of the state, and then subsequently this is of the urban local bodies. Consistently that has been stagnant. There hasn't been any growth that has been witnessed if you talk about the own tax resources as percentage of GDP for the urban local bodies. And then if you see the tax and non-tax revenues from the land that the urban local bodies are getting, if you compare the China and India from 1999 to 2022 as the percentage of GDP, the China revenue from land taxes as well as the land sales has saw an haphazard growth. It was not consistent, but comparatively if you compare it with India, it has seen an uptrend. Whereas this is the China's revenue from the land taxes, which has been stagnant, but India's revenue from the land taxes, that has been much more abysmal as compared to the China. Also, if you see the structure of employment across 3 tiers of the government, China, India and United States. In India, this is about the India, this is about the China, and this is about the United States. That at the state level, we have seen an increase, but at the local level in India, the structure of employment hasn't been very good. So these are the major issues which are plaguing the Indian grassroots democratic system. Then if you see the lack of technical expertise, that here what we have said, that there should be proper plan for the economic development, that if there are water resources, so we can go for proper watershed development. If there are agricultural land that is available, so how we can utilize them effectively to ensure that maximum yield we are getting, how to move towards the sustainable agriculture, how we can ensure that there are some local level employment avenues that are being created. So this economic development plan is very crucial for the overall growth and development of the local bodies as well as the people in those areas. But when we do not have the proper technical expertise while planning, while implementing, while executing the plans, then that is the reason most of the plans are still traditional. They hasn't improved a lot. So we have still lack of proper expertise with regard to the planning, implementation and management of the different development projects that are there. Then if you talk about the political interference, that these urban local bodies are increasingly becoming disempowered. They have the litigation with the state governments also that are happening. Then issue of the functionality. That before moving towards the issue of functionality, let's talk about the political interference. In past few years, there has been multiple reports of lack of proper conduct of elections consistently in every 5 years, which has been mandated by the constitution itself. Why? Because there has been lack of proper formation of the different commissions which will recommend that what should be the reservation that should be provided to the OBC, SC, ST, because these commissions first they are formed, they recommend the reservation and then subsequently that is implemented in the panchayat elections. That has been the case with the Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh, and that has been the recent case with the Uttar Pradesh also. That on 25th April or 26th April, the panchayats are going to complete their 5 years. But now elections will probably happen after 1 year, because there is lack of proper data with regard to the OBC and how the reservation can be provided to them. So now the certain officers will look up to these urban local bodies, these grassroots democratic institutions rather than the elected representatives which were earlier looking. So here these particular bodies are increasingly becoming disempowered. They are also consistently in the litigation with the state governments. Then issue of functionality. Earlier you might be hearing about the 3 major issues: fund, function and functionaries. But now the issue is also with regard to the functionality, that they have the grants that they are getting from the center and the state government. They have certain other works that has been devolved, but they are not being implemented effectively. For example, Manrega, that has been changed to VBG Ramji Act. These village panchayats, these they were the implementing authority for the Manrega, but there has been multiple reports of the corruptions that were involved, lack of proper attendance, lack of proper creation of durable assets with regard to the Manrega work, and that has been one of the reasons why there was a need that was felt to change the Manrega completely. So there is ineffective service delivery as well as the local needs are not being addressed effectively. Then other issues that are there, for example, irregular elections that we have just talked, that lack of proper elections happening every 5 years, lack of awareness with regard to the importance of the rights that are available to the citizens, to the elected representatives, as well as the corruption and inefficient bureaucracy, the bureaucratic apathy that is there. All that hampers the overall effective functioning of the Panchayati Raj institutions. But if you talk about a case study that is provided in NCERT also, that there is this Hiware village which is in Ahmednagar district, which has turned itself into a prosperous village. They have used funds from the government schemes, and that has helped them in regenerating the natural forest, water and soil. Instead of limiting themselves to the traditional cotton, wheat, rice, sugarcane production that was being done, they shifted to high yield variety of seeds. They shifted to cash crops. They shifted to high value crops. They shifted to horticulture crops, where they were getting much more profit, much more remuneration. So all this shift that was witnessed was mainly led by the strong village head. The Sarpanch of that village has provided that hand holding and capacity building, with the help of which that village has now turned into a village of millionaires. That earlier, which was battling with low yield, droughts, farmer suicides, etc., has now turned into a prosperous village. And the overall water availability, the water table, the overall yield, etc., has significantly improved. Now, what are the major suggestions that we can implement to address the underlying issues, that we can empower the state election commissions for the delimitation as well as for the reservation, that they can decide the boundaries. They can also help in fixing or refixing the boundaries of the constituencies, and that will actually help in timely completion of elections, and that will also reduce the overall litigation, and this will improve the transparency as well as the independence of state election commissions will also be improved. There has been various reports with regard to the people or the officers who are appointed as the state election commissioners. Generally, at times there has been reports that the serving bureaucrats are being appointed as the state election commissioners. So there has been apprehensions, there has been concerns with regard to the partisan behavior, with regard to the transparency and independence that will be shown by a serving bureaucrat who is being appointed as the state election commissioner. Then various malpractices which has time and again been highlighted. For example, in Chandigarh Municipal Corporation election in 2024 itself, there has been reports of various malpractices. There has been various CCTV footages that came in the light itself. So the election of the mayor in the Chandigarh Municipal Corporation is one of the prime examples. Along with that, there has been other malpractices that has been consistently reported. Then financial autonomy, for example, the devolution of finance commission, the revenue sharing, the empowerment that has been seen. So we need to go for the financial autonomy. There can be multiple other subjects that can be devolved, that can be given to the panchayat so that they can collect the taxes. Their own tax revenues can be increased, so they will be less dependent on the grants that will be provided to them from the center and the states. Then accountability, for example, mechanism for the public oversight, the capacity building, provide training and resources to the local officials, that the people who are holding the offices in the local bodies, they must be accountable to the citizens, to the constitution itself. There should be proper actions that can be taken if there are reports with regard to the corruptions, lack of proper devolution of all the schemes or the funds, etc., that are mandated for the citizens. Then public involvement in the decision making. For example, we can go for the institutional reforms. For example, we can modernize and streamline the local governance structure so that there is more feedback that is being taken from the citizens in the real time, and accordingly the plans can be made, and subsequently the overall effective governance can be provided, and which will also be very crucial in realizing our vision of Viksit Bharat by 2047. And this is a mains practice question that you people can write from this particular topic. Moving towards our next topic, that is India's EV ambition needs a grid strategy to match. And the context of this topic is that in today's The Hindu newspaper, there is an editorial which is emphasizing on the point that India's EV future depends on a strong and clean energy electricity grid that will be crucial to ensure that the batteries which are being used in the EV vehicles are being charged properly. And whenever there is a debate that comes in front of the economy, in front of the country, with regard to the dependency that we have with regard to the supply of the crude oils. So, for example, 85% of our crude oil needs are being fulfilled by imports itself. And whenever there is a supply chain disruption that is witnessed in any part of the world, then that leads to high prices of diesel, petrol or other petroleum products. And now the transportation or other sectors which are using these petroleum products will also witness increase in the prices. And now that will be seen, the impact of that increase in the prices will be seen across different sectors. That is the current situation, that when the US and Israel attacked Iran, Strait of Hormuz was blocked, then there has been supply chain disruption, there has been lack of proper supply of the crude oil, and then that led to increase in the prices of the petrol and diesel. And now the transportation services, the vehicles, etc., which are using these petroleum products will see an increase in prices, and that will be transferred to other products also. So subsequently we may witness increase in the inflation, and whenever the inflation will increase in the economy, the purchasing power of the people will reduce, and subsequently there will be reduced demand of goods and services. Why? Because people are finding it difficult to afford the products, because the products has become very costlier on account of increase in the prices of the petroleum products. And when people will start demanding less number of goods and services because of increase in the prices of the product, then there will be less production by the companies also. Why? Because there is no demand, so there will be reduced production of goods and services, and that can ultimately lead to job losses, high unemployment, etc. And then subsequently that can also lead to reduced purchasing power of the people. Why? Because people do not have any employment, they do not have any money, and then subsequently further the overall industrial activity, overall production of goods and services will reduce, and that can have a large scale implications across different sectors across our economy as well as the country. And that has been one of the reasons why Honorable Prime Minister warned recently that we should shift towards the sustainable alternatives, we should shift to the sustainable habits. And to address this import dependency, we have taken various initiatives. For example, the ethanol blending program that was launched, or the promotion of EV with the help of FAME India scheme, etc. that is being done. Government is trying to ensure that slowly and gradually people shift to the sustainable alternatives, so that there is a reduced need for importing the crude oil itself, and that will give us a strategic leverage that will also help us in reducing the impact of the supply chain disruptions that are generally being witnessed across different parts of the world, and which has seen an uptrend in the last few years, especially after the COVID-19, the Russia-Ukraine war started, then the crisis that is going on in the Middle East. And this particular topic is related to GS Paper 3, Conservation, Environment, Pollution and Degradation, as well as Infrastructure. So the writer is emphasizing on the point that we cannot just shift to the EV vehicles, that only the buying or the sale of the electric vehicles is not the panacea of all the problems. Rather, there are multiple other areas that we need to focus. So the writer says that if you see, the two-wheelers, the scooters, bikes are the major sectors where we have seen the EV adoptions, which hasn't been the case with the big commercial vehicles. For example, the trucks, the big buses that are there, they are still using the diesel itself, which is coming from the crude oil itself. And truck, freight vehicles, public transportation systems, they are still dependent on the petroleum or the traditional fuel itself. They hasn't shifted to the EV. Why? Because there is a hesitancy, first of all. More than that, there are certain other issues. The lack of proper, because there is a time limit of the batteries, they needs to be recharged or they needs to be changed. So in the long routes, that might create problem, especially with regard to the supply of the goods that are happening across different states. Along with that, lack of proper charging infrastructure, then this process is also capital intensive, that the owners of these vehicles will have to first of all sell their own earlier trucks or the freight vehicles, and subsequently they will have to buy the EV vehicles. So the bigger issue is the electrifying, lack of proper electrification of the trucks, freight vehicles, as well as other commercial vehicles. We have mainly seen the EV adoptions in the scooter, bikes or two-wheelers, or at max the three-wheelers that we are witnessing. Whereas India's vehicle base, as per the Vahan portal of the Ministry of Road Transportation, 420 million registered vehicles are there approximately. And if all the vehicles will become electric, India may need an additional 900 to 1100 TWh electricity annually, and even 50% electrification may require around 500 TWh of extra power, and this is nearly 1/3 of India's current electricity generation. So that means that it is not only limited to one concern that we have to shift to the EV vehicles, but providing them proper consistent supply of electricity with the help of which they can charge themselves, with the help of which the batteries can be charged, is also one of the major concerns. That we need to ensure that our installed capacity is getting increased. More than that, the electricity generation from the clean sources like solar or hydropower, etc., is being utilized properly. Why? Because we have the traditional grids as of now, which is compatible with the supply of the electricity from the coal-based thermal power generation plants. It is not compatible. These transmission lines needs to be improved to ensure that they are compatible with the renewable sources, which is a capital intensive process which hasn't seen an uptrend in last few years. And that is the reason, if you see the installed capacity of India's power with regard to the renewable has seen an uptrend. The solar is contributing around 26.44%. Total installed capacity has increased to 514 gigawatt. But if you see, India's India's power generation, the solar is contributing only 8.87%. The total electricity generation is around total power generation is around 1375 BU, and the coal is one of the major contributor to the overall power generation that we are witnessing. And despite having the installed capacity, we are not producing the electricity from the renewable sources. There are multiple reasons for that. First of all, whenever we are shifting from this coal to the other renewable sources, there may be a case that the people who are employed in this coal sector may feel job losses. There are the investment which has been already done in this coal sector, how to utilize that effectively. Along with that, the current level of technologies that we have, comparatively, the per unit charges from this renewable energy is little higher as compared to this coal, etc. that is there. Along with that, the cost that is involved for upgrading the transmission lines, etc., that is also one of the major concerns. And if you see, India has around 6.26 million heavy trucks, and each truck may consume around 60,000 kilowatt hour per year, and total electricity that will be needed will be around 450 to 565 TWh annually. And if you add medium trucks, then subsequently the electricity required will further increase. So what we are witnessing, that the personal vehicles, two-wheelers, three-wheelers are not the concern. The concern is that we haven't shifted to the heavy vehicles, where they are using the majority of the petroleum products, as well as these are the sectors where the transportation cost is becoming higher with regard to the increase in the prices of the petrol and diesel, and subsequently they are being transferred to the overall goods and services that are being transported from one place to another. So if we will shift to the EVs in the commercial sector, in the freight vehicle sector, then subsequently we can reduce the overall cost of the transportation, right? Along with that, what we have to understand that here this EV transition is mainly about the electrifying India's supply chain, not just the private vehicles. It is not the solution that we have shifted to EV towards the private vehicles. The major concern is that whether we are able to shift these heavy vehicles towards the EV or not. Then if you see the other concern, the concerns related to this, that transmission and the distribution stress that is being faced. For example, the fleet operators, the people who are operating the different vehicles, they already face delays in the high voltage connections, weak local distribution systems, as well as the financially stressed distribution companies in the states who are not in a position to invest further in upgradation of the transmission lines, in upgradation of the overall infrastructure. So until unless we will have the proper charging infrastructure, until unless we will have the consistent supply of the electricity, especially from the clean sources, especially in tier 2, tier 3 cities, we will not be able to shift effectively. Why? Because no operator would like to be stranded at a particular city consistently for more than 10-12 hours only for charging their battery. And if there will not be the consistent supply, then they will be compelled to wait at that location itself, and then there will be delay in supplying the product that they were carrying, and that will lead to an additional cost for the product itself. So that is one of the major issues. Then evening charging peaks, that most of the electric vehicles, what we are witnessing, that there is the crowd that is coming at the charging stations. Why? Because people generally do their work from morning till evening, and then subsequently they tries to plug in their vehicle at any one of the charging infrastructure. But if the demand which is peaking at evening is not being fulfilled properly, there are tripping that is happening, there is lack of proper supply that is being witnessed. So there can be grid instability that we can witness, there can be faults that can happen, and there can be power cuts that we can witness, and then that can further complicate the problems, especially for the freight vehicles as well as the commercial vehicles. And if there will be lack of proper grid supply, then this can also lead to a case where the prices of the electricity may further go up, and that will not provide any motivation for the commercial vehicle to shift to the sustainable alternatives. Then if you see the other concerns that are related to the EV adoption in India, first of all, the stress on the electricity electricity grid. The large-scale EV charging can overload India's power system, especially during evening peak hours, which we were discussing right now. That 50% of EV adoption may require around 500 TWh of additional electricity annually. Electrifying heavy vehicles alone may need 450 to 565 TWh of per year. And states are already witnessing delays in providing high voltage connection for the EV fleets. And if we will witness a sudden shift towards the commercial vehicles towards the EV, then that might further complicate the process. Then coal-based electricity dependence. For example, EV reduce the tailpipe emissions, but environmental gains remain limited if the charging relies mainly on the coal power. Around 70% of India's electricity generation comes from coal itself. The risk is that India may shift from oil dependence to coal dependence instead of achieving the clean mobility. For example, this Energy Statistics of India report 2025 released by Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation that says that coal in the share of total energy production increased from 77% in financial year 23 to 79% in financial year 24, and about a fourth of coal supply is being imported itself. Then if you see other concerns, inadequate charging infrastructure, for example, insufficient public charging stations, they discourage the EV adoption and create the range anxiety. India's charging network remains concentrated mainly in the urban areas. We do not have the proper charging infrastructure, especially in the Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities. The long distance freight EVs face charging accessibility issues on the highways. Then high initial cost of electric vehicles. For example, electric vehicles have lower running cost, but they remain expensive upfront. That in the initial stage itself, the overall cost of the EVs are comparatively high. So if the person will not have the sufficient money, they will find it difficult to afford that. More than that, even if they will go for taking credit, etc., that can lead to an additional cost for affording that vehicle. Batteries account for nearly 35 to 40% of total EV cost, and electric cars still cost significantly more comparable to the petrol vehicles. Then dependence on imported critical minerals. For example, India heavily depends on the imports for lithium, cobalt, nickel, as well as battery cells. The major suppliers include China, Australia, as well as Chile. This creates the strategic and supply chain vulnerabilities. Then battery recycling and e-waste. That India lacks large-scale battery recycling infrastructure. The millions of electric vehicle batteries may reach end of life by 2030. The risk is that a future battery waste and toxic disposal crisis can come in future. Then financial weakness of the distribution companies. The power distribution companies are already financially stressed. Rising electric vehicle load may increase the infrastructure cost, transmission losses, supply reliability issues can come. And then there are safety concerns also, which has been highlighted in last few years. For example, that poor battery quality, the leakages, the accidents that are happening, and then the lack of proper thermal management, the cases of the fire, etc., that are being witnessed, especially in the Ola, as well as certain other battery related vehicles that are there. So that reduces the reliability, because no one will be willing to risk their life only to shift towards the EV itself unless there will be proper assurity of the safety. And if you see, there has been various initiatives which are taken by the government. For example, faster adoption of manufacturing of EV vehicles. This has been launched in 2 phases, and that has been mainly to ensure that there is proper EV adoption, as well as there are demand incentives that are being given that can boost the demand. And also the focus is that there can be certain subsidies, etc., that can be provided to the beneficiaries, so that they are motivated to shift to the EVs. Also, the state government, generally what they do, they take the road tax. Whenever a person is buying the vehicle, they take the motor vehicle tax or road tax, which you can say. Generally it is 10 to 11% on the petrol vehicles, costing more than 10 lakhs. But what exactly happens, that most of the states, not all the states, has gone for 0% motor vehicle tax for the EV vehicles, so that people are motivated to shift towards the electric vehicles. All the states are not charging 0%. Some of the states like Gujarat, etc., are taking the minimal, but that is still comparatively less as compared to what they are taking for the petrol and the diesel vehicles. Then PM Electric Drive Revolution, Innovative Vehicle Enhancement, PM E-Drive, which will replace the FAME 2 with the broader EV push. Production linked incentive scheme for for automobile and auto components. This production linked incentive scheme was launched, which was providing incentives to the companies based on their incremental sales, and whenever the sales were improving, then this was boosting the domestic EV manufacturing. Then PLI scheme for advanced chemistry cell battery storage, which will strengthen the battery ecosystem. Then PM e-bus seva scheme, which will help in electrifying the urban bus fleets. Then also there has been incentives that are being given for the giga scale battery manufacturing, etc., because we need proper battery storage infrastructure also, so that there will not be an issue with regard to the supply of the charged batteries, etc. Then what is the path ahead, what is the road ahead, what is the way forward? First of all, we can make the EV demand central to the electricity planning, that the upgradation of the transmission lines, etc., can be by keeping in mind based on the EV demand that are in that area. For example, we can target 30%, 50%, 100% electrification from the sustainable sources, clean energy sources. Mandatory smart charging infrastructure should support the grid responsive charging, that whatever the haphazard connections that are there, or lack of proper supply of the voltage is there, grid should be responsive according to that. Plus, grid should be also responsive as per the demand of the charging, that if it is peaking in the evening, then grid should upgrade, grid should fulfill that demand according to the need itself. Joint planning between ministries, for example, there should be proper coordination between Ministry of Road Transportation and Highways, Ministry of Power, then the finance sectors that are there, that will provide the proper loans, capital, etc., so that we can build the proper infrastructure. We can also strengthen the distribution companies, that we can improve the financial health of these distribution companies, that they will be motivated to shift to the sustainable they will be motivated to shift towards the upgradation of their transmission lines. They will further invest in the storage infrastructure, etc. Local grid capacity can be augmented, that can be improved. Last mile delivery systems with regard to the storage infrastructure, etc., that is also the need of our, and especially we need to focus on the tier 2 and tier 3 cities. Then smart charging, for example, charging should happen during the solar hours at off-peak times, that can be motivated to ensure that there is no overload that we are witnessing on the grids. We can also use time of use pricing, smart chargers, managed charging systems that can be developed. Then battery swapping that can be done, that is useful for commercial vehicles, that a person will come with their discharged battery and they will at designated centers, they will submit their discharged battery and they will take their charged battery and they will take that to in their vehicle, and then subsequently they can continue with their journey. But there are lack of proper objective criteria, lack of proper standards how this will be properly implemented, and that is the reason it is not effectively implemented across the country. So that needs to be improved. Two-wheelers, for that also, especially what we have seen, that with the expansion and penetration of the e-commerce, now Zip, etc., are the companies which are promoting the electric two-wheelers. But whenever these gig workers has to wait for charging their infrastructure, then that is a loss that they are witnessing. So what we need to ensure, that there is proper battery swapping facilities that are being provided to the two-wheelers also. This helps in reducing the charging pressure on the grid. Better grid planning, for example, India must include the EV demand in the power planning. We can upgrade the substations as well as the transmission lines. We can also build the EV ready infrastructure itself. All this will help in ensuring that we will be able to shift towards the better EV adoption, as well as we will also be able to achieve the target of becoming net zero by 2070. This will also reduce the dependency on the imports for the crude oil. This is a mains practice question that you people can write from this particular topic. Moving towards our prelims pointers section that we have introduced considering your upcoming prelims examination. The topic is the verdict that has came with regard to the litigation going on between the Elon Musk and Sam Altman. So here this is related to GS paper 3, Science and Technology, and this has appeared in today's The Hindu, page number 12. So the background of this case is that OpenAI, which was founded in 2015 as a non-profit to build ethical as well as safe artificial general intelligence. So ethical means it is not discriminating between the people, it is not biased, etc. And the founders of this OpenAI believe that this will benefit the humanity as well as it will remain open source, that people can use it without paying any payment, etc. And Elon Musk was also an early supporter and donated about $38 million. The main dispute was that Elon Musk sued the Sam Altman, Greg Brockman, and the Microsoft, and the allegations of the Musk were that OpenAI abandoned its non-profit mission. For example, the people who are using the ChatGPT would be aware of the fact that there are subscriptions that are available on the ChatGPT, and that improves the overall use as well as the multiple facilities which are provided based on the subscription that a person can take. And now it has transformed into a profit-driven company. Microsoft investment influenced this shift that was not the case earlier, because earlier there was non-profit. Why this OpenAI shifted? Because building this artificial general intelligence infrastructure required massive funding, and Microsoft etc. were the companies which provided this funding, because there were other artificial intelligence platforms that were coming there. For example, Gemini of the Google, DeepSeek, which is a Chinese company. So here if they will have to remain relevant, if they will have to remain competitive, they required the funding, and whenever the funding came, then slowly and gradually it has become a profit-driven company. Also in 2019, OpenAI created a for-profit subsidiary, non-profit parent retained oversight, and investors were given capped returns also. And the role of Microsoft is that Microsoft invested billions into OpenAI. They also became a major strategic and financial partner of OpenAI, and Musk actually argued this violated the OpenAI's original mission, which was the non-profit, ethical and safe AI that they were going to build that will be benefiting humanity as well as which would be remain open source. And the verdict that was provided by the court, that jury dismissed the Musk lawsuit. Reason is that there are procedural issues, not the merit of the case. The lawsuit was filed too late, and there are limitation of the statute also. The court did not decide whether OpenAI betrayed its founding principles or not. And also there has been various important trial revelations. For example, the former executive raised concerns about the conduct of the Altman, who is the founding member. Meera Murthy, she also testified Altman has missed us regarding the safety review. There has been various other concerns which has been highlighted with regard to the functioning. Also, the counter argument of OpenAI was that evidence showed that Musk himself earlier supported making OpenAI a profit company. Musk allegedly proposed integrating OpenAI with the Tesla under his control. And this actually weakened the Musk claim that he always opposed the commercialization. He was also the supporter of the open ecosystem. Also, claims that were failed, that jury rejected claim that Microsoft investment breached OpenAI charitable mission. Musk's antitrust allegation against OpenAI and Microsoft that remains unresolved. The major takeaways that are there, that verdict was procedural, not ideological. The main unresolved issue is that whether OpenAI abandoned its original mission or not. OpenAI emerged as the immediate winner. There are certain other important terms related to the AI which can be asked in the prelims examination, because generally in the prelims examination they don't go into the technical details, rather they ask the basic questions. So what is artificial intelligence? It is a technology that enables the machine to perform tasks requiring human intelligence. Generally the tasks which can be done by the human intelligence itself, when that are being done by the machines, that is your artificial intelligence. Artificial general intelligence, which is a hypothetical AI which is capable of human level reasoning across multiple domains, that particular platform that can decide based on the reasoning, based on the logic, based on what is good for humanity, what is ethical, what is reasoned, that is your artificial general intelligence. Then machine learning, which is a subset of artificial intelligence, where the systems learn patterns from the data without explicit programming. Deep learning, which is the advanced machine learning using multi-layered neural networks to process the complex data. Then neural network, which is the computing system which is inspired by the human brain for the pattern recognition and learning. Generative AI, that is the AI that creates the new content such as text, images, audio or code. Then large language model, which is the AI model trained on the massive text data sets to understand and generate the language. Then reinforcement learning, which is the machine learning method where an AI learns through the rewards as well as through the penalties. Then supervised learning, where the machine learning using labeled data sets for training themselves. Unsupervised learning, where machine learning where AI identifies patterns without the labeled data. Then edge AI, that is the AI processing performed directly on the local devices instead of the cloud servers. Turing test, that is test to evaluate whether a machine can mimic human conservation. Then singularity, which is a hypothetical point where AI surpasses human intelligence rapidly. Then AI governance, that is the policies and regulations guiding AI development and use. Agentic AI, that is the AI which is capable of independently planning and performing tasks. Then retrieval augmented generation, that is the AI method combining external information retrieval with the text generation. Then our next topic is organic farming. This is related to GS paper 3, major crops and cropping patterns, and this has appeared in today's The Hindu, page number 4. So the Minister of Agriculture is emphasizing on the point that we need to shift towards the organic farming. Why? Because there is a fertilizer crunch that we are witnessing. So organic farming is the agricultural system that avoids the synthetic fertilizer, chemical pesticides, as well as other synthetic products, and they mainly relies on the natural inputs, ecological processes for the farming, and also they focuses on the sustainability, soil health, biodiversity conservation. For example, there are no synthetic fertilizers that will be used in organic farming. There will be no chemical pesticides, etc. And the major practices that are generally used here in the organic farming: crop rotation, mixed cropping, green manure and composting, organic manure coming from cow dung, etc. are being used. Vermicompost and biofertilizers are used, which helps in rejuvenation of the soil. Biological pest control are done. Integrated farming systems are being developed, that we start doing livestock, we start doing certain other practices rather than limiting ourselves to the agriculture itself. And the major objective is to improve the soil fertility and productivity, also to ensure that safe and nutritious food is reaching in the plates of the consumers. It has various environmental, economic and health benefits. For example, it improves the soil health and organic carbon, as well as it reduces the soil and water pollution, the degradation of the biodiversity which is witnessed with the use of the fertilizer, pesticides, etc. sees a decline. Economic benefits, for example, reduce dependence on chemical inputs. Organic products fetch premium prices. It also generates rural employment and it improves the long-term farm sustainability. The health benefits are there: the lower pesticide residue in foods. It is safer for farmers and consumers. It also reduces the exposure to the toxic chemicals. And we have the major certification system for the organic farming. For example, you have the Participatory Guarantee Scheme, or PGS, which is the locally oriented quality assurance system based on trust, participation and transparency. And this is only whatever the PGS certification is there, only that is compatible to be sold in the domestic market. PGS certification cannot be used for export of the product. For this, for the export of the product, we require National Program for Organic Production, that is NPOP, third party certification system in accordance with the national and the international organic standards. So if a product is having NPOP certification, only then that can be sold in the foreign market. Then India Organic, that is the national certification mark, that is the official national mark for the organically produced products in India. There has been various initiatives which government has already taken. For example, Paramparagat Krishi Vikas Yojana, that is promoting the organic farming through the cluster approach, that there will be clusters or group of villages, areas will be created where this will be focused. This also supports the certification, inputs and marketing. It also empowers small and marginal farmer. Cluster-based organic farming promotion, for example, it promotes the formation of organic farming clusters, provide hand-holding support, training and capacity building. It also strengthens the market linkages for better value realization. Then Mission Organic Value Chain Development for Northeastern region, that is promoting the certified organic farming in Northeastern India, supporting farmer producer organization, processing units and infrastructure. This facilitates the market access and exports. Then Bharatiya Prakritik Krishi Paddhati, that is promoting the natural and traditional farming practices. It is encouraging the cow-based natural inputs and improves the soil health and reduce the chemical independence. If you see the major difference between natural and organic farming, in the natural farming there is zero external interventions. That here it will be adopting to the local conditions. Whatever the components, whatever the materials that are available in the homes of the farmer, that will be used. For example, cow dung, zaggery, cow pulses, then for the pesticides, these chili powder, etc. will be used. So whatever is available at the home of the farmer, at the house of the farmer, that will be utilized in natural farming. Whereas organic farming is permitting the organic fertilizers, which can be the external intervention, which can be bought from the market itself. And for organic farming, it should adhere to the global standard. At time they can permit particular authorized synthetics, but that will be exceptional. That will be at the limited time. That will not be the regular thing. It also relies on the manure and the organic matter. High cost is there with the more external inputs like organic fertilizers, etc. that are being used. Whereas the natural farming is relying on the ecosystem for the fertility, that with the rain that will come, with the rejuvenation that soil will be doing on its own, there will be improvement in the fertility that we will be witnessing. It also encourages the microbial action and decomposition, low cost due to reliance on the biodiversity that will be witnessed in the natural farming. Then our next topic is Ebola outbreak, which is related to GS paper 2 health, and this has appeared in today's The Hindu, page number 18. So the World Health Organization has voiced its concern with regard to the scale and speed of the Ebola outbreak, which is being witnessed in Democratic Republic of Congo, which has killed around 131 people. So this EVD, formerly the Ebola hemorrhagic fever, is a severe, often fatal viral disease affecting humans as well as other primates. This is caused by the viruses of Orthobolavirus genus as well as under the Filoviridae family. And the major disease causing species are Ebola virus causing the EVD, and the Sudan virus, and then some other viruses they can cause. The major symptoms are fever, fatigue, muscle pain, headache, sore throat, etc. Then at the later stage, it can further complicate the situation. Vomiting, diarrhea, rash, kidney, liver impairment, etc. can also happen. Fatality rate is very high. The treatment is that early supportive care and rehydration improves the survival. Monoclonal antibody treatments can also be provided. The transmission of Ebola virus is animal to human, which is zoonotic. That is, the fruit bats are considered the natural hosts. It spreads through contact with infected animal bloods, organs, secretion or bodily fluids. Human to human transmission can also occur. Direct contact with blood or bodily fluids of infected or deceased persons. It also spreads via the contaminated objects like bedding or clothing. The major points are that high fatality but not airborne, prevention through hygiene, safe burial practices and avoiding contact with infected individuals or animal. No licensed vaccine widely available through several vaccine candidates are in advanced trials for the Ebola. Our next topic is Chandrayaan 3 HOP experiment, which is related to GS paper 3 space technology, and this has appeared in today's The Indian Express, page number 11. The hop simply means it is a maneuver or a small jump which the lander does from one place to another place. So that is one of the crucial maneuvers which has been done by the Chandrayaan 3. So on 23rd August 2023, India's Chandrayaan 3 successfully soft landed near the moon's south pole region using the Vikram lander. And on 2nd September, Vikram performed a small controlled hop using the residual fuel, and hop, that is the small jump which was done from this place to this place, demonstrated engine restart capabilities, that engines can restart themselves. Then controlled movement on the moon, that we can control the movement of the lander also. Also technology on the future lunar sample return and reusable landing missions, that now the lander has landed, but what if we has to take the samples and we have to return from the lunar surface to the earth, or we have to utilize the reusable launch vehicles or reusable landers, etc. So this HOP experiment is going to be very crucial for those future experiments. Then this CHAST, which is the Chandra Surface Thermophysical Experiment, it actually studied the lunar regolith, that is the soil that is fine, jagged, glass-like crushed rock particles on the moon surface that are there. And it included rod-shaped probe with the temperature sensors, heater to study heat flow and soil properties, surface penetration capabilities, that whether spaces are available on that soil or not. That was done by this CHAST experiment. What is the importance of this HOPE experiment? That it improves the understanding of lunar surface composition and heat behavior, water ice preservation in subsurface layers, safe landing and habitat construction sites for the future moon missions. It also provides the first detailed in situ thermophysical and geotechnical data from the lunar South Pole highland region. Then if you see the other information related to Chandrayaan missions, the Chandrayaan 1 was launched in 2008. The launch vehicle was PSLV XLC-11, which was successful. It discovered evidence of water molecules on the moon. Chandrayaan 2 was launched in 2019. GSLV Mark III M1, which has now been renamed as LVM3. It was partially successful. Why? Because the orbiter was successful, but the Vikram lander crash landed during the landing attempt. Then Chandrayaan 3, which was launched in 2023, it used the LVM3 Mark IV, which is the advanced version. It was successful. India achieved the first soft landing near moon's south pole. You people tell me in the comment box which are the other countries which has soft landed on the moon's south pole. Then our next topic is Canine Distemper virus, which is related to your GS paper 2 health, as well as this Kanha Tiger Reserve is related to your GS paper 3 environment and ecology. This has appeared in today's The Hindu, page number 4. So this Canine Distemper virus is a highly contagious viral disease caused by the Canine Distemper virus belonging to this Parampioxyviridae family, and it mainly affects the dogs and the wild carnivores such as tigers, leopard, foxes. It spreads through the airborne droplets, direct contact and infected bodily secretions like blood, etc. And also affects the multiple systems like the respiratory, digestive and nervous systems. Fever, nasal discharge, coughing, diarrhea, seizures, paralysis can impact these carnivorous animals. Also, domestic and stray dogs, they are the reservoirs of this canine distemper virus, and that actually enables the transmission to the wildlife to the other animals. Vaccines of the dogs is the most effective preventive measure for this particular virus, and this is also one of the threat to the wildlife conservation, because this is considered a serious threat to the wildlife conservation due to cross species transmission that can happen. Then Kanha Tiger Reserve, where we are witnessing this outbreak. So here this Kanha Tiger Reserve is located in Madhya Pradesh in the Makal range of the Satpura Hills, which is part of the Central Indian Highlands. It is declared a national park in 1955 and included under the Project Tiger in 1973. It is connected with Pench Tiger Reserve and Achan Kamar Tiger Reserve through the important wildlife corridors. It is famous for tigers, leopard, Barasingha, sloth bears and wild dogs. It is known for successful conservation of the hard ground Barasingha. Vegetable includes sal forest, bamboo forest, grasslands and wetlands. It was established in 1955 as a national park, and it was included in 1973 it was included in Project Tiger, and it has approximately an area of around 2051 square kilometer. It is situated at an elevation of 450 to 850 meter. And tropical hot summer, pleasant winters are generally the climates in this Kanha Tiger Reserve. They have it is having a rich biodiversity. For example, tiger, leopard, Barasingha, sloth bear, wild dogs, all these are generally present in this Kanha Tiger Reserve. With this, we have came to the end of this discussion. Thank you very much. All the very best. Keep studying. My best wishes to all of you who are giving this year's examination or the upcoming examinations which you people will be giving. This is the last time you are witnessing me on this platform, because I have qualified one of the examinations, so I will have to join there. And I will end only with these lines that सितारों को आँखों में महफूज रख लो, बहुत दूर तक रात ही रात होगी, मुसाफिर हैं हम भी, मुसाफिर हो तुम भी, फिर किसी मोड़ पर मुलाकात होगी. धन्यवाद.